Welcome to Six of Stakes. I'm Fia, a 20-year-old singer-songwriter and lifelong Buffy the Vampire Slayer fanatic. So whether you're a die-hard Scooby Gang member or just diving into the Hellmouth for the first time, you're in the right place. So join me as I recap every single episode of Buffy, start to finish, seeing how well they've aged, breaking down the iconic moments, analysing the deeper themes, and you best believe I'll be judging some awful British accents. Today we're looking at Season 1, Episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth. That started it all. I first watched this episode when I was about 11 years old, and clearly it was doing something right because it managed to somehow get me hooked, even with my awful attention span. And no matter how many times I watch this episode, I'm still amazed at how much lore and how many characters they throw at you in the span of 45 minutes without it feeling like too much for the audience to handle. I also just love seeing how different the likes of Buffy, Xander, and Willow are in comparison to, say, Season 7. That might be because I always watch this episode straight after every single time I finish Season 7, so the contrast is kind of more in your face, but I love it anyhow. So this episode aired on the 10th of March 1997, along with the following episode, The Harvest. So just to put that into perspective, that is just over 7 years before I was even born. And so you know, my job here is just to make everyone feel old. Anyway, let's get into it. First thing we have is the intro bit. In every generation there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer. I promise I won't read it out in full every single time, I just felt like I should let myself do it at least once. I somehow always manage to forget about the American voice for the first season before it changes to Giles. There's nothing major to point out about this, I just find it jarring, weirdly. So starting off the recap, the episode opens in classic horror movie fashion. We're in Sunnydale High, it's nighttime, it's spooky. We see two figures breaking in, this eager teenage boy and a blonde girl in like a Catholic school uniform. He's trying to impress her by being all rebellious, but she's just more concerned about like whether anyone's watching them. So they're wandering through this dark hallway, and she keeps acting like she's hearing something. She seems all wary of her surroundings. So he kind of teases her for being all scared and jumpy, and finally he reassures her that they're alone. And that's when she turns around. Her face morphs into vampire form, and she sinks her teeth into his neck. Boom, twist revealed, because nothing says welcome to Sunnydale quite like breaking and entering, and then breaking some necks. I feel like this scene is just the perfect opening for this show, despite the fact that you don't actually see Buffy or any major characters. It's just like, it's straight away messing with tropes that people have become so used to in horror. You expect the blonde, jumpy girl to be the victim, but she turns out to be the danger itself. It's basically telling the audience straight away that you can't assume who's prey and who's predator. Also kind of sets the standard for subverting like traditional gender roles, which we see throughout the show. Then we have the opening credits, and no matter how many times I watch this show, I barely ever skip the credits. This theme song is just too good. First thing we see after the credits is Buffy having a nightmare about vampires, candles, cemeteries, and all this cryptic danger wrapped together in a chaotic mess. And right off the bat, we see the prophetic dreams, which play an important part throughout the entire show. Also, something important that we see is the Slayer handbook, which flashes up as one of the images. So Buffy's mum, Joyce, then calls her from downstairs, waking her up, telling her not to be late for her first day at her new school. And Buffy seems so done with it already. It cuts straight to outside the high school with this very 90s rock, kind of American Pie sort of music playing as Buffy gets dropped off. Joyce is just praying that Buffy doesn't burn anything down this time. We then see Xander for the first time, skating straight through a crowd of people, as you do, until he's like, oh my god, a woman! That woman being Buffy. And then he just eats shit, taken out by a railing. He falls at the feet of Willow, who's immediately established as this, I don't want to say caricature, but like, like the typical nerdy, awkward character. She agrees to help Xander study. I think that they started off trying to make Xander too cool for his own good, which is saying something because even this early version of Xander is so deeply uncool. And then we meet Jesse. We're really just being smacked in the face with new characters left, right, and center. And cut to Buffy in Principal Flutie's office. He's warm and welcoming. He's telling her that Sunnydale High is going to be this blank slate for her, and it's an opportunity for her to change things around. Her record doesn't matter. So he tears up her transcript in trying to make this point. And then upon seeing why she was expelled from her previous school in LA, Henry, he immediately starts taping it back together. He is just the average clueless Sunnydale adult, probably just hoping that there's no asbestos in their gym. In the hallway, Buffy drops her stuff, Xander drops some game. Truly subtlety at its finest from both of them. Buffy leaves her steak behind and Xander picks it up, obviously, because she's just left it there. We then meet Cordelia for the first time. She starts quizzing Buffy to try and gauge her coolness, like trying to initiate her as one of the popular girls. I did have to Google who John Tesh is. I had no clue who that is. I don't know whether it's because I am too young or too British. I had no idea. So then Cordy starts going after Willow at the water fountain. Buffy doesn't interfere, probably for the sake of not losing friends as soon as she's making them, even if that first friend happens to be Cordelia Chase. She tells Buffy about the bronze. She also establishes just how small of a town Sunnydale really is. And then she shows Buffy to the library, which is seemingly empty. So there's this zoom onto this newspaper with this giant red circle drawn around a photo of some local missing boys, which I just find hilarious. Because no one knows how to be subtle about anything in this bloody show. Buffy gets tapped on the shoulder, and this is when we meet Giles. She asks for the textbooks that she needs, and he's like, I know exactly who you are, and I know what you're looking for. And then he just plonks this massive Slayer handbook on the desk. She freaks out, obviously, and leaves. So, pro tip, Giles, maybe lead with, hi, I'm a librarian, how can I help you? Instead of, I know who you are, I know what you want, big book of death, here you go. And then Giles just seems so confused as to why she freaked out and left. This next scene in the locker room has possibly my favourite little combination of lines in the whole episode. There's all this gossip about the new girl, and these girls are, this girl is like, oh, she seems kind of weird to me. What kind of a name is Buffy anyway? And then immediately someone walks past her and just goes, hey, Aphrodisia. Just that casual back and forth just fucking kills me. This girl, Aura, then opens her locker just to have an extreme dead guy fall straight onto her, resulting in just this amazing horror film scream. It's so good. Also, Sunnydale High might have a Hellmouth problem, but it's also got a serious teacher-to-student gossip pipeline issue. So why does everyone know about Buffy getting kicked out of her last school in like 5 seconds? Then we finally see Buffy interact with Willow. Willow thinks that Buffy's basically just another Cordelia. Obviously she saw them before at the water fountain when Cordelia was picking on her. And then when Xander and Jesse join them, I think she realizes that Buffy isn't a threat. Xander drops some insane game again and then just whips out the steak that Buffy had left behind before. Cordelia appears and shuts down Jesse as soon as he even tries to speak to her. I'm 100% a Cordelia apologist. Even though I was massively bullied at school and would have absolutely fucking hated anyone like Cordelia in real life, when she does it, it's okay. Obviously, throughout the show, there are some things that she does that are definitely not okay, but like 90% of the time, she's just iconic. Anyway, Cordelia casually drops the news about the extreme dead guy in the locker. Do they close the school? Send everybody home? No, they just cancel gym, which is something, I guess. If they shut the school every single time someone died, they would just constantly be at home. So Buffy starts asking some very subtle questions about the state that the body was in, and then realizes that she needs to investigate. So she breaks into the locker room, which and is just majorly pissed off to find some bite marks in the guy's neck. Sunnydale High. Come for the education, you stay for the mortality rate. So she bursts into the library, realizing that she has to talk to Giles, because he's the only one that knows she's a Slayer. He talks a little bit about the prophecy and gives the whole "to every generation a Slayer is born" speech. He's trying to assure Buffy that Sunnydale needs her and that she can't escape her destiny. He then gets way too excited to tell her about the sheer amount of demonic activity in the town. He talks about the role of a watcher, and Buffy is still reluctant to continue her duty as a Slayer, but during this conversation, that should probably be a lot quieter and in private, who was in the stacks? It's Xander! He heard everything. We then see this cave full of vampires, where we meet Luke for the first time. He's just dramatically repeating, "The sleeper will wake and the world will bleed." And then we're back at we're quickly back to Buffy, who is picking out an outfit to wear to the bronze. Joyce asks where she's going. The Nun Club, obviously. This is kind of one of the moments where we see Buffy interacting like a normal teenager. Her mum seems hopeful that Sunnydale is this great new start for them both. We're then given another typical horror film type scene. Buffy's walking alone, and we see this dark figure following her, but she's oblivious because, hey guys, she's literally just a girl. And then, brilliant, dark alley. Of course. We then see the face of the figure that's following her. And suddenly, Buffy's a straight up gymnast and then absolutely fucking wallops the guy, who is just trying to assure her that he's on her side. He talks about the mouth of hell and the harvest, and tells her that he's a friend, but not exactly whose friend he is. He gives her a crucifix necklace, which is the one that we saw in the nightmare at the beginning of the episode, and then he's gone. So Sprung Monkey are playing at the Bronze. I'll admit, I listen to this album Swirl quite often. The music in the show is so good, and I'm not even embarrassed to admit that so many songs on the soundtrack end up on my Spotify Wrapped every year. I love that you can't hear any crowd noise over the music except for this one girl screaming like Toad from Mario. The concept of the Bronze also just kind of baffles me, if I'm honest. Why are there 16-year-olds doing their homework in a club? It's basically a fire hazard, a health code violation, and an underage drinking burst just waiting to happen, which is basically like so many music venues I've been to, but not when there are literal children studying for their tests. Anyway, Buffy finds Willow, they talk, she reveals that she used to date Xander, and the line delivery of the "he stole my Barbie," where Willow's face is just so serious, and that paired with Buffy's reaction just really fucking gets me. And then Willow clarifies that they were 5 at the time. They talk about boys. Willow is awkward and adorable as ever. She opens up to Buffy. She assumes that it's obviously a lot easier for Buffy to get attention from guys. And Buffy gives her the whole "seize the moment because tomorrow you might be dead" speech, which Willow obviously takes verbatim, but mainly because she's just grateful that someone wants to talk to her. So Buffy sees Giles upstairs and goes to him. And that moment where Willow's like, "Oh, you don't have to come back." I love her. It seems like Giles also hasn't mastered the art of subtlety. Just like a 40-year-old man lurking over a bunch of teenagers. He assures Buffy that he doesn't want to be there and that he'd much rather be at home with a good book and a cup of Bovril. Giles, I know you're supposed to seem boring and British, but do you have to stoop to Bovril level? Giles tells Buffy that the Bronze is like perfect for vampire activity. Buffy's like, "Ugh, I know, the harvest, your friend already told me about it," which obviously confuses Giles because he has literally zero idea about the harvest or what Buffy's on about. She describes the guy who told her, describing as he was like dark in a gorgeous in an annoying way. Like, yeah, babe. Like, keep pretending, see how long that lasts. Giles is starting to panic and asks her if he told her anything else. She mentions the whole, like, mouth of hell thing, but, like, completely brushes past it, obviously. Meanwhile, Jesse tries it on with Cordelia again, only to, again, be shut down straight away. I love Cordelia so much! And then Giles goes into full watcher mode. They're stood over everyone at the Bronze talking about honing her senses, being able to find a vampire amongst all these people. Buffy cuts Giles off straight away and is like, oh, there's one. Before he can go on some long-winded watcher speech, and he's like, which one? Well, you don't know that it's a vampire. And it's like this majorly 80s looking guy. And you know that Giles knows that she's right, and he's like, but you didn't hone. Jesse's on the prowl, Willow's on the prowl, then Buffy sees Willow prowling straight in the direction of 80s guy, realizing that she's definitely going to be in need of some serious saving, based on Buffy's own advice. So Buffy rushes off, and Giles cannot stand still for 5 seconds. He's like, oh, do I go? Do I not go? Do I not go? And he's like panicking. So Buffy's creeping around, looking for Willow. She hears a noise, whips out the stake immediately, and it's Cordelia. Rewatching this part, after seeing a certain episode of Yellow Jackets Season 3, is giving me too many ideas. Buffy and Cordy, Shauna and Melissa, don't judge me. Do you see my vision? There's definitely tension. Anyway, obviously Cordy's freaking the fuck out, and she's like, excuse me, I need to call everyone I've ever met right now. Buffy returns to Giles, who is like so proud at how quickly she got the job done. He's really wigging out about the harvest, and he wants to go to the library to do some research. Buffy tells him that she didn't get the vampire, and Giles is immediately antsy again and insists on going with her. She just assures him that she doesn't need any help. She walks straight past Jesse, who is chatting up the blonde from the cold open, who we find out is called Darla. Cut to the creepy cave again, and Luke's standing over a pool of what I can only assume is blood, and who rises majestically out of said blood pool, completely dry, I might add. The guy from Buffy's Nightmare. We find out that this is the master, the big bad for this season, Mr. Fruit Punch Mouth. And you know he's evil when he has dramatic lighting installed in his underground lair. Luke talks to him about the harvest, which will free him, he'll free the master from his little force field bubble thingy that he's stuck in. Cut to Willow just babbling to 80s guy. Willow really did have a thing for guys who talk in very short, non-committal phrases. I mean, except for Xander, who talks way too fucking much. I should definitely create a segment, like, as we go on, of what stupid thing did Xander say or do this episode? Because I guarantee that would be so full of things. So full of things. Buffy bumps into Xander. She tells him that she's looking for Willow. As she starts to walk away, Xander makes the big reveal that he knows. Oh, I hope he's not a vampire, because then you might have to slay him. Buffy panics. Obviously. Xander realizes that things are, like, way more serious than he could have imagined. Cut to this crypt thing. 80s guy is a ball of charm, just shoves Willow straight into a room. Then we see Darla followed by Jesse, who dramatically falls to the ground. Darla goes full vamp face. Buffy then shows up, starts being a bit of a smartass with the two vampires that are holding her new friends hostage. 80s guy gets dusted, and she goes straight to fighting Darla. As Buffy stops to brag, she gets pinned by Luke, who absolutely fucking wallops her at the wall. The main fight between Buffy and Luke starts. Luke is just beating the ever-loving shit out of her, whilst calmly reciting some biblical-sounding lore surrounding the harvest and its purpose. Buffy's on the ground. Luke lunges straight at her, freeze frame, to be continued. Long story short, Buffy gets killed by Luke, and the other 143 episodes never happen. The end. Now is the sort of time where I would talk about how this episode holds up to modern standards, if there was anything that made this episode age particularly badly. I'm not even gonna pick up the visual effects, because I don't even think that they're that bad. I'm sure on a 90s quality TV they wouldn't have looked half as bad as they do on the shitty HD remaster that seems to be on all the streaming services at the moment. I watch Buffy on both the DVDs and Paramount Plus, which is the remastered version. So the lighting in most scenes is a bit weird. I hate how it looks, frankly. I don't think that there was anything majorly problematic in this episode, though. I've seen some people talk a bit about how Giles and Buffy's relationship is a bit weird for a teacher and a student, or a librarian and a student, whatever. Which in a lot of cases I would be the first person to jump at and say it's weird. But I think with Buffy and Giles, it's definitely different. He's not predatory in any kind of way. He's the only person who knows the true depth of Buffy's identity. He's the one who understands she's the only one who understands Giles's role of Watcher. Neither of them had a choice in having these roles, so they kind of know where each of them are coming from. I think the main issue throughout most of the show is that it's very white, heteronormative centric. Not in this particular episode, but there's definitely some derogatory and ableist language thrown about. But that's how teenagers talk, both in the late 90s and now. So while I definitely don't think it's necessary to have ableist slurs and all this stuff thrown around in shows, it's definitely how the typical edgy teenager would insult people or joke around. Xander definitely does and says some questionable and frankly horrible fucking things in this show as a whole, and I am in no way defending his behaviour, but he is a teenage boy and that is how they talk and act. A lot of them. You best believe I will slate Xander's behaviour as much as possible when we get to some really bad bits. But once again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was anything to point out about this particular episode. My worst dressed award unfortunately goes to Willow for this episode. I'm really sorry. I don't blame her. I blame her mum for picking it out. Anyways. Welcome to the Hellmouth masterfully balances teen drama and supernatural horror. Plus, it's campy as fuck, and I will defend season 1 till I die for that. It establishes a tone that's both self-aware as well as emotionally resonant. The episode sets up Buffy as a complex protagonist, someone who craves normality whilst being inevitably drawn into this fight against the demons and the forces of darkness. The tension between destiny and desire is central to the show's core theme from episode 1, like for the entire show. So this struggle to reconcile personal identity with the weight of responsibility and try and balance being a teenager and being the Slayer. The writing is fucking amazing. It weaves all this character development into the action. And for such a character-driven show, it's really hard to find that balance, but I think Buffy just does it perfectly. Buffy's reluctance to embrace her identity is mirrored in basically every single interaction in this episode. Brushing off Giles' warnings and advising Willow to seize the moment because tomorrow you might be dead. Yet in the final cemetery scene, we see the Slayer role really come into place and just how good she is at it. As I mentioned before, the subversion of typical horror tropes, specifically those based on gender, the pretty blonde becomes the monster. It sets the precedent for how the series will continue to challenge genre conventions. It just completely flips the whole damsel in distress archetype just on its head, making her the hero and confronting societal expectations. Overall, the episode strikes an impressive balance between character-driven storytelling and genre-savvy commentary. It's a really cleverly layered introduction into the Buffyverse that doesn't completely drown you in exposition, like some other shows that I've watched. Can you tell I got an A in Media and Film Studies? I definitely don't have a lot going for me, but I sure can analyze the absolute shit out of a show that I'm obsessed with. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Six of Stakes Pod for the occasional Buffy collection post, or on my main account at Femilson, that's Pimilson, for my everyday stuff, my travel, concerts, and my own music that I make. If you ever fancy reading my fanfic, which is a rewrite and continuation of Season 6, Episode 19, Seeing Red, those who know. You're welcome. You can find that on Archive of Our Own under the title Lost and Found by Six of Stakes. Feel free to message me on Instagram or email me at sixofstakes@gmail.com for anything you particularly want to be included in later episodes of the show, or give me any advice as I continue this rewatch journey. And I will be back for Season 1, Episode 2, The Harvest.